Hello, hello. It is Thursday night, and welcome to the Progress Report Special Edition. We're still working on our Mayoral series, and I'm so excited to continue bring you the information and things like that. And by the way, thank you guys for the inboxes these past couple of days. Thanking me for thanking us for doing this series. We do this series simply because of the fact that we're committed to bring you guys the local candidates, the people that are vying for your vote to be either your mayor, your governor, your state senator, state representative. And, tonight we have another show. I bring back my a good friend of mine who is going to be running his own campaign as well, from what I hear as well, and then Harrison Tuttle, executive director of Black Lives Matters Rhode Island PAC. And you guys know we love Harrison here at the Progress Report. And yeah, I can't wait to bring them on. But we also, like I said, we're continuing our mayoral series. Tonight, we're going to be interviewing another candidate for mayor. Yes. And we're bringing him back. We spoke to him back in June. I've seen him around the neighborhood campaigning many times, and we've had a couple of conversations. And I'm excited to have this conversation with him tonight. We are excited to welcome back Gonzalo Cuervo. But before we do that, something was very disturbing to my tech person, Chris Martin, earlier today. He had sent it in the report, and I have not seen the video because I can't watch videos like this, and these type of videos really, really hurt. Domestic violence is real, and a former NFL player, former NFL running back by the name of Zach Stacy, allegedly abused his girlfriend. And what bothers me most about this case is that the Oakland police went to the scene of the crime, and when they went to the scene of the incident, according to the affidavit, it stated that the victim's shirt was torn, she had food in her hair, flat screen television was knocked over and broken, there was food scattered on the floor, and there was a baby's bouncing chair that was knocked over and broken. And then there's also a video. They got the video surveillance of the woman's home. And this was reported on November 13th. They just issued the arrest warrant yesterday. That's ridiculous. You gave this person time to get away. Domestic violence is real. This is something that happens every day. And the biggest problem about it is that time and time again, we can continually see it in the NFL. And the general consensus is because the NFL players, because the sports players, is that they get away with it. But when is enough enough? Today I'm speaking for anyone that has been domestically abused, man or woman. Now is the time to raise up and talk about it, speak about it, and support one another. This got to end. We got to end domestic violence. And it starts with when somebody tells you that they're being physically abused or abused, period, you got to investigate it and you got to believe them, period. So with that said, usually I give you guys a funny monologue. I don't have a funny monologue today. I'm extremely tired. But I will say this. I understand the holidays are coming around, and I understand Thanksgiving's coming around, and Christmas, and everybody's got to get their Christmas shopping done and all this stuff. But can everybody please do me a favor, Rhode Island? Can you please drive like you got some sense on the highway? Seriously. I'm on the highway going to work here, there, and everywhere, and all I sit there and see is people literally just like not using their turn signal, cutting people off completely. This is how an accident starts. I seen a big accident the other day. Guys, let's have some sense. Let's not go above the speed limit. Let's drive safe, and also let's wear our seatbelt. Hey, and another thing, let's show a little kindness when we're out there shopping. By the way, speaking of Christmas and the holidays coming up, I do have a couple of things on my Christmas list. I'll share them after Thanksgiving. But also, next Tuesday, we have a wonderful show, and I'll be going over my Thanksgiving traditional favorites on Tuesday. I can't wait. to share that with you guys. What does my family do and how we actually celebrate the day? We just use it as a day of family and just talk junk, but I can't wait. But with all that said today, I'm going to bring in my friend, Mr. Harrison Tuttle. Hello, Harrison.
Dion, how are you?
I'm here.
Yeah.
physically here.
It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to be on the progress report again. I think the last time I was like, is this like the fifth time? I've lost count, but I am so thankful to be here again. And will always pick up the phone and be on the progress report when you
Listen,
call.
we will, as long as I'm here, we'll always have you. As long as I'm, because who knows? Who knows? A year from now, I might not be there. They might
Yeah.
get sick of me at the progress report. So you know what? We can't take him anymore. He's always going off script and not letting us know that in the third. Just kick me right off. Who knows what will happen? Harrison.
Yeah.
But the real question now is, who's been on the most? You, Jennifer, or Taylor?
Wow. So I can only speak for because I watch the show every week, so I know who the guests are, and I'm pretty certain.
Harrison watches every week. Maybe I should play some trivia with Harrison the next time he comes on. With Taylor, Jennifer, and Harrison, I should play trivia. I have all three of you on, and I should do quick little trivia. We give the Gab something up and do a little trivia.
I am fairly certain that I have been on since March, which is like the first time I've been on was the first time I have been on by far the most, more than Jennifer.
More than
yeah.
But you gotta remember, Jennifer was on before March too. So do we take that into account?
No, because I don't know how many times she was on. So I'm just sticking to since March.
You know what? We got to find out that number, and then I'll probably set up a post on Twitter or something and say we've had Harrison, Taylor, and Jennifer on these many times.
And if I'm trailing behind, I need to like do back-to-back shows.
I think Ken will be fine with that because Ken, when he does a schedule, that's easy. Oh, he's gonna do all right, 3 shows in a row. Boom, there you go.
I don't have a problem with it.
But Harrison, rumor has it that you're running for office.
Oh yeah, that's not a rumor anymore. I think the question is, where am I going to run? Every single time I say I'm running, I say General Assembly, and people are like, the Senate or the House? And really that's determined based off the redistricting of the districts. And I wanted to make sure that, I knew who I was running against before I did it. Obviously, that is an incredibly important decision, and wanted to make sure that when I was ready that I was going to announce.
Nice. So I'm excited. So I can't wait till you officially announce exactly what you're. And it's going to be state, but when you do, I hope I can get that first interview one-on-one with you. If you give it to, let me tell you something. If you give it to any one of those other ones out there, okay, Harrison, I'm looking for you and bringing you to the night water. Okay, it's that simple.
It's all about meeting the quota. If I'm behind with Jennifer, I have to come on.
She's sitting down listening right now. She's like, you know what? They keep talking about me. Watch. She's gonna pop in the. She does have the Skype link. She'd probably pop into the Skype link out of nowhere, and we see her pop in with the,
Gonna come with their Christmas tree in the back lit up.
Yeah, I didn't even ask her about a Christmas tree. Jennifer, shout out to that Christmas tree. That was a beautiful Christmas tree. But girl, it's too early for that. All that. I'll wait till December. I gotta wait till December. No, but let's leave Jennifer alone before she beats us up next time she sees us. Yeah. But I got a question for you. So in Fulton County, PA, 2 Republican county commissioners refused to restore some funding to small county library because it hosts LGBTQA support group. The commissioner equated the LGBTQIA plus support group to hate group, the Proud Boys, but didn't stop there. They also claimed Black Lives Matter was a hate group. Local activists started a GoFundMe for the library, and not only did they exceed the measly $3,000 asked for by the county commissions, they raised over $21,000 for the library. What do you think about that, Harrison?
Well, I think that shows the power of community.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the longest time, we've looked to people in high places. And up until recently, we've kind of been met with the help that, hasn't really been there, right? And so when the community gets together and creates a grassroots effort, no matter what it is, but specifically behind a library, I mean, that's super encouraging. When I heard the measly 3 million and then saw that it turned into 20 million, I mean, that is
3,000, and they
1,000
turned 1,000.
to 1,000.
It was 3,000, and they turned it to 21,000.
Okay. Well, I mean, still, I mean,
Speaking into existence, maybe they're gonna get 21 million for this library. Who knows? Listen.
I mean, look, I mean, that's the power of organizing, right? That's the power of people coming together and doing something that, we should all believe in. And, my hope is that in the future, we have a government here in Rhode Island that reflects that.
Yeah, I agree. I've also been talking to both. I had Daniel Munoz and as well as Matt Brown on the show, and we've been talking about those ways. But I've had several senators. How can we make Rhode Island better and more reflective of the people? And I think that starts with making sure that first. For me, I think it starts with the education system. We get civics back into the school system and teach kids about how the government works. What are the different branches of government? What is a bill? How do you get a bill to turn into a law? What is an ordinance? What are those functions? What do city services? What do state services look like? What do federal services look like? Those things. So the self-proclaimed QAnon shaman, Jacob Chansley, was Chansley, whatever his last name is. I forgot about him. He was the one with the horns, who wore the friggin' horns.
Yeah.
Wasn't he also the one that said that he had to get a special diet because he had to put a motion in for a special diet because he couldn't eat the prison food?
Yeah.
That guy. So he got 41 months in prison. In prison. I can't talk tonight, Harrison. He got sentenced to 41 months in prison. And the judge said, what you did was terrible. You made yourself the epitome of a riot. U.S. District Judge Court Royce Lambert, an appointee of President Ronald Reagan. What you did here was actually obstruct the functioning of the whole government. It's a serious crime. He got 41 months. That's 3 years and 5 months. Do you think that's long enough?
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm willing to bet that if a black person did that, or a black and brown person did that, or anybody who wasn't white, would have got a lot longer. And I think it's a reflection of the disparities and harsher sentences between black and brown folks in this country compared to white folks. I mean, this person broke into the Capitol and was spreading violent conspiracy theories that, resulted in, multiple people losing their life and lasting trauma. And so I know that black people have been arrested for longer for charges of marijuana. And they didn't storm the Capitol and try to perform an insurrection. So, it's just really a reflection of our justice system, and that's in quotations.
You mean our injustice system. And with that said, we have to go to commercial, our first commercial. When we come back, we're going to have, thank you so much, Harrison. I'll see you a little bit later. Yeah, it's commercial. And then when we come back, I'll be having a one-on-one interview with Mayoral candidate for Providence, Gonzalo Cuervo. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Progress Report. Great conversation with Harris and Tuttle. And I just want to say to Jennifer Roque, we love you with all of our heart. We didn't mean that. Don't beat us up, please. No, with all that said, I'm excited tonight to sit down and speak with this gentleman again. I spoke with him back in June. He came on graciously, and I've had several conversations with him since. He is running for mayor of Providence in Providence, Rhode Island. You guys know how I feel about Providence. Yeah, I say it every single time. Providence, the city that born and raised me, the streets that I got educated in, and the schools I got educated in. So I'm all about my city of Providence. I love Providence. And so what else is a good way for me to celebrate Providence than to bring the people that are vying for your vote to be the leader of Providence? So without further ado, Mr. Gonzalo Cuervo.
Dion,
What's
how's
up?
it going?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm reporting live from Broad Street.
You're live from Broad Street. South Side. Yes.
Ah, how are you?
Yes.
How's everything going?
Everything's going well. Everything's going well. I can't complain. I can't complain. You know what I mean? Nobody will usually listen. Anyway, but
True.
so Gonzalo, you're out there on Broad Street. Where are you on Broad Street right now, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, right now I'm at a place called El Palacio de la Música. It's a record store. It's near Thurber's Avenue.
Okay, okay.
It's a little loud outside, but
it's loud outside. You know what? You know what? I love Broad Street. I love Broad Street, one, because Broad Street I feel like is the only place in the city where personally I can just go and get some comfort food, go have a drink, and also get out there and dance, have a good time. But also, it's not just going to be live inside the club. When you get outside, it's going to be live
right.
too.
It's a never-ending good time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the only spot you get, well, no, not the only, but they got everywhere you go. If you want a Pacalito at 1 o'clock in the morning, go over to Broad Street. Anybody, I tell you, go over to Broad Street, get yourself a Pacalito, do yourself a favor. Gonzalo, I'm gonna jump right into it. What makes you the best choice for mayor of Providence?
So thanks, Dion. Here's the thing. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island 47 years ago. And I've spent my entire adult life fighting for this city as a community activist. I started when I was 19 years old. I volunteered with a bunch of organizations on the South Side and in different parts of the city. I've built relationships over almost 30 years in this city, real meaningful relationships in this city. And then I had the opportunity to run a small business actually across the street from where I'm standing right now. I ran a print and graphic business for a couple of years. And then I went to work for a neighborhood health plan of Rhode Island and ended up working in government. And I worked in city government for more than a decade. I had leadership positions in city government. And then I had the opportunity to work at the state and really navigate the legislative process as Deputy Secretary of State, pushing a progressive, thoughtful elections agenda, transparency in government. And I think that the combination of those experiences, both on the ground in the community and in government and as a small business person, really prepare me to have a thoughtful and ground up view of how we can effect real change in our city. Because our city has all these amazing assets, and yet a significant majority of our population doesn't have access to those assets. And it's really unfortunate. You look at the west side of our city, every day we have more and more young professionals moving here from other parts of the country because they're excited about Providence. They're excited about our creative economy. They're excited about everything that's going on here. And yet our own youth from right here on the South Side and the West End and different parts of the city have to leave because they don't really see a future for them. There's economic oppression. There's environmental racism. There are a whole bunch of different factors that are impacting our youth and causing them to leave. And I think that's unacceptable. My son graduated from URI a couple of years ago, and almost all his friends from Providence left. There are only like 2 or 3 who stayed behind living in Rhode Island. And he lives in Providence, but he commutes to Massachusetts every day to work. And it's like, look, we have so much human capital. What makes cities great. It's not roads, it's not buildings, it's not programs, it's people. And we have the best asset in Rhode Island is the people of Providence. We need to build that.
So if you were to take office tomorrow, let's say you're mayor tomorrow, to bring that back, what is one piece of ordinance, one single piece of legislation or ordinance that you would support or draft with city council to make sure that that happens?
I mean,
To find a way.
I don't think there's one particular thing. I think we need to have a package. We need to be ready. And there's an issue, we can't talk about, social justice and economic justice go hand in hand. And our communities, particularly our communities of color, have been oppressed for a very long time. We have very vibrant, dynamic neighborhood commercial districts that haven't had access to real capital, haven't had access to real opportunities for a very long time. I'm standing here on Broad Street, but even if you go to other districts like, for example, Charles Street, Smith Street, Cranston Street, all these different neighborhood commercial districts that have been kind of left on the way by the wayside. We have an opportunity to create economic opportunity within our communities and support our small businesses, our business owners of color. Really invest that will not only create economic mobility, it'll create jobs for our communities. It'll create family wealth. It'll create opportunities for folks to become homeowners. And when we have a city where more than 2/3 of the population, almost 3/4 of the population is the BIPOC community, I think it's unacceptable that we have the levels of poverty, the poor performance in our schools, the health disparities. It's really unfortunate. We need to turn that around. We need to be intentional about investing in our communities.
Okay, so you said schools. You started talking about schools, and that's one big that's an investment I think that needs to be immediate. Based on what we hear in Providence, education, specifically the state takeover of the Providence public school, is a big concern for everybody. It's my big concern. You're gonna if you're the next mayor, or whoever the next mayor is, whoever the next city council members is, that should be our public school system should be a huge concern. Providence schools are broken and need to be fixed. Where do you stand? And I think my question is more specific. Where do you stand on the school board being appointed versus elected?
Well, here's the thing. I think that it's important for our community's voice to be heard. And I know for many years, historically, the mayor or the chief executive of the city has been interested in an appointed board because you get to control the narrative. And I think, I think if the people of Providence prefer an elected board that's going to be truly representative of our neighborhoods and our communities and of the communities that are served in the city, then I think that's a fantastic idea. I have no problem. I would be supportive of an elected school board. But what we need to realize is elected school boards require a level of civic engagement that is above and beyond what we've seen traditionally here. And one of the challenges that we've had with civic engagement is the economic opportunity. When you have people that are busy juggling 3 or 4 gigs, 3 or 4 jobs a day to survive, they don't have time to go to meetings. They don't have time to get involved. They're busy surviving. We talk about the hierarchy of needs. If you need to pay rent and put food on your table and take care of your kids, it's kind of hard to convince folks to show up to a school board meeting or to show up to any other type of civic activity. So this goes hand in hand with economic development. And I don't mean economic development downtown, I mean economic development in our neighborhoods for our families. When I was a kid organizing on these streets here, where a lot of people, most of the people in my neighborhood here in Washington Park worked for companies. They made decent wages. They weren't wealthy. They were working folks, but they were home by 4 or 5 o'clock. And you could get a critical mass of people to show up to a school board meeting, to show up to a city hall meeting. Nowadays, everybody's working Amazon Flex, Grubhub,
I got 2 quick questions for you. The first question is, Leah Bohr, I seen you at the repeal rally. Are you still for repeal, Leah Bohr? I know the mayor doesn't have control of state legislation, but are you still?
No, but here's the thing, Dion. The mayor is the chief lobbyist and the chief cheerleader for the city. That's the real role of the mayor. And so the mayor should be advocating with the legislature on issues that are important to the city. And the challenge with Leah Bohr is Leah Bohr is a bad idea. It's a bad idea for the community, and it's a bad idea for the rank and file of the police, because what it does is by protecting a small minority of police officers who don't do their job well, it casts a dark cloud over all the other police officers who are trying to do their job well. And I think that if we look at it from a neutral perspective, I think Leopold does much more harm than good, and it just continues to build to expand like this chasm between a crisis of trust, of confidence between the community and the police community. And guess what? We all know being a police officer is a difficult job. You know, it's a tough job. They're asked to do a million things. They're asked to be social workers. They're asked to make split-second decisions that none of us would want to be in that position. It's a tough job. But the reality is that like any other position or any other job or any other career, there are always going to be some folks who are not good at that job and some folks who simply should not be in that role, right? And by maintaining Leobor, what we're doing is where we're preserving a mechanism that protects folks to the detriment of everybody else, both their peers in law enforcement and the community that they serve.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo. Okay, so my last question is, on a fall night when you're not doing anything, what is your favorite go-to snack?
My favorite go-to what?
Snack in the fall night. What is your favorite go-to snack when you're just relaxing?
When I'm relaxing, I like cheese balls. That's my go-to snack.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like
the big tubs that they sell at Price Right.
Yep. Gonzalo, thank you very much. We're going to have you back in just a little bit for our wrap up with Harrison. Thank you very much for the one-on-one. Yeah. Everybody, we'll be right back.
Kikipedia, your online guide to LGBTQ plus bars, clubs, and events. Find all the tea on your local gay bars. Home of the internet's most comprehensive digital drag show and virtual event guide. Visit kikipedia.app or dragstreams.com now!
Hello, and we're back. Let's just say this has been a fun conversation so far. Fun conversation so far. Wow, I cannot speak tonight, everyone. I don't know what's going on. You know what? Last week I said to a good friend, you got to get some rest, and I'm going to take that advice. Tomorrow, I'm going to get some rest, everybody. After I go off the show, get some rest. But until then, I'm just going to use whatever little bit of Yoda strength I have left and get myself in here. Okay, so let's finish this conversation. We're gonna bring back Harrison Tuttle, and we're gonna bring back Gonzalo Cuervo. Hey guys. All right, I apologize. I can't ask questions tonight to save my life. But let's talk about Providence for a second. What is your favorite place in Providence and why?
Are you asking Harrison or are you asking me?
Let's start with Harrison. What's your favorite place in Providence?
Oh, putting me on the spot. I am a Cranston resident, so I am not as um, my Rolodex of places are not as big as I'm sure Providence residents. But I will say the go-to spot when I'm out with friends is Chinatown on Thayer Street.
Okay.
But it could do a lot better. And I need Dion and hopefully you, Gonzalo, to take me out to these places that I should be at.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Gonzalo, what's your favorite place?
On Dion's face was apparent.
My favorite spot in Providence is Roger Williams Park. I think Roger Williams Park, not only is it beautiful, it's serene. You can run, you can walk, you can ride your bike, you can go to the zoo, you can look at nature, you can go into the botanical gardens even on a rainy day and disconnect from reality. And it's like the great equalizer in the city. It's everybody's backyard. I raised my kids in Washington Park, and the Roger Williams Park was their backyard, and we explored it extensively. And it really, not only is it a beautiful place, but it brings back wonderful memories to me. And I've had the opportunity now for 5 years to be on the board of the Roger Williams Park Conservancy, and we've made some significant investments in the park, and I'm incredibly proud of that.
Yes, nice. So my favorite, I tell people I love downtown Providence because downtown Providence, you get to see all of Providence. That's just my thing. And you can get anywhere in Providence from downtown Providence. And also, I've had some wonderful conversations with just random people passing by and things like that. So I love downtown Providence. I do. However, don't get me wrong, Washington Park, y'all already know Washington Park. Don't play Washington Park. I know my friends watching Washington Park, they're like, oh man, I like Washington Park.
But Dion, you're in a good spot in Washington Park. You're in a good spot. And you're close to Harrison too. You're like a stone's throw away. Who's better than you?
That's true. And I have the park right down the street for me. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So my next question is, gentlemen, Gonzalo, if you could wave a magic wand tomorrow, and we wake up, what would be different about Providence?
I think if I could wave a magic wand, I would ensure that we lift our families out of poverty. I think the greatest enemy to development, the greatest enemy to human progress, the greatest enemy to maximizing our kids' potential in the city is poverty, persistent poverty. There's too much of an income gap. There are housing crises. Everything goes back to the fact that families today are making much less money in today's dollars than they were making 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And we can't expect folks to get involved in civic activity. We can't expect folks to worry about their neighborhoods. We can't expect folks to do a host of different things if they're busy surviving. So that would be my primary focus.
Harrison, if you could wave a wand, I know you're not a Providence resident, so we can say, let's say Rhode Island. If you could wave a magic wand, what would one thing you would want to change in Rhode Island?
Sure, and I think for the most part, no matter where you look throughout Rhode Island, not just Providence, there are a lot of people that are struggling. So a lot of this, issues that are going through our state, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's housing, is universal, right? And so, I would say that if I could wave a magic wand, I would say as someone who has been homeless multiple times, I think it's time to build affordable housing, low-income housing to all folks that make sure that not only homelessness is eliminated, but also is sustainable when it comes to a green-friendly Providence and Rhode Island throughout this state.
So I'm going to say this. I agree with both of you. I agree with both of you, and that's a good response to that question. I think, and that's the only response I've ever gotten out of anybody to that thing. And I'm up early in the morning. I have to catch the bus, go to work, and things like that, and then I'm on the road all day long. But the other day I had to go to the ATM and grab some money out the ATM, and one ATM, the one I normally go to, was out of money, and the one I went to go to the other one the bank and there was a man sleeping, you know, and anybody else would have probably picked up the phone and called the police. And I sat there like, you know, I'm not going to call the police on this guy, you know, because he's experienced houselessness. That's he's experiencing a situation, you know.
And
I think
Dion, here's the thing, and so this is something that Harrison will be able to work on when he's at the State House. Even I've had situations recently where there were folks that were experiencing that were unhoused. They were experiencing homelessness, and even knowing who to call and the right phone numbers and the people to call, it's an insurmountable challenge to get people into the system. Like I'm calling for these people, and I'm calling the directors of these different agencies, people who I know, and it's you'd think that you were asking, that you were applying for a mortgage or something. It's really unbelievable. And it's like, we have the resources. We have the resources to end homelessness, to eliminate unhoused people. We have the resources to do that tomorrow. And yet it's like, we can't get out of our own way. And it's really infuriating.
You know, the crazy thing is, you know, I've been speaking about this, and this is not my numbers from my numbers, but these are actually Jennifer Roque's numbers, and she said it would take $700 million to end homelessness in this state, and we still talk about there's at $1.12 billion of money that the state has not used. There's going to be a bunch of money coming in for infrastructure. There's another, there's still 300,000 they haven't used. Another 500 million, 300 million they haven't used. Another 500 million they haven't used. There's a bunch of money that they have not used that we're about to have. And you're talking about 700 million. I think from tolls and Bridget tolls alone, we get about that. Roughly around that.
And not only is that 700 million, which, when people hear 700 million, they think a huge number, which it is. But in the grand scheme of it, when it comes to a government budget, a state budget, specifically ARPA money, the process of actually eliminating homelessness to get folks into the hotel, to provide social worker support and food. What's up, Dion?
I'm just saying it's less than 5% of the budget. Like, let's be real.
You could start a phase right now for about $52 million.
Right. A fraction of that money. A fraction.
Which is like 2% of the ARPA money. The 700 million comes from sustainable building affordable housing with transitional housing for our formerly incarcerated homeless members who, oftentimes are not released from jail because they don't have that stable home environment to go back to.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. I just think it's ironic that amount is to us, that's a big number. It's a huge number, but to the state budget, it's a small number. It's a fraction of what our budget is. And we can literally end homelessness, something that people, listen, there are people out there and a lot of those same people say, I'm tongue-tied right now, I'm sorry, but like a lot of those people say they're tired of the panhandling, they're tired of having to step over people who are sleeping in the streets, they're tired of people coming up to them asking for money, but those are the same people who say, so we're not going to give them a handout for 700 million, but if you're tired of it, take a fraction let's talk to your state legislators, take a fraction of the budget so we can end homelessness in the state.
Well, Dion, like Harrison just said, we could end homelessness tomorrow with 10% of that money. Tomorrow. And the long-term solutions will require significant investments, but we could address the problem because we don't, this isn't San Francisco or Denver. We don't have thousands and thousands of people. This is a manageable problem that could be solved tomorrow with the resources that we have.
So this is a question I have close to my heart, and I know, Harrison, you have a question as well for Gonzalo as well. But this question is close to my heart, and then I'll let Harrison ask this question. This question is, the City Council Ordinance Committee recently passed a resolution that, if passed by full City Council, would limit or stop the use of the Port of Providence by fossil fuel companies. What are your thoughts on the Port of Providence, Gonzalo?
So the Port of Providence is an important asset for the city. I think it's been underutilized in many aspects. I think there's a way that we can really maximize that port infrastructure. And I think what we've been focusing on primarily is the expansion of fossil fuel delivery, right? Which is when they bring the natural gas and they bring the other petroleum derivatives into the city. And I think it's unfortunate because, you know, I raised my kids in Washington Park, about 1.5 miles from the port. And to think that I can't think of any middle class or wealthy neighborhood in the city or the state where people would be cool with having that type of infrastructure literally several hundred feet away from a neighborhood, right? I can't think of anywhere. And so my thing is, we need to stop the expansion of that, and we need to have a long-term plan for the eventual replacement of that infrastructure. Now, I think the other night there was a resolution that was passed, and the city council was looking into an ordinance to limit the expansion and study the eventual removal of that infrastructure. I think that's a great step forward. I think there's an opportunity for the port, particularly the area that's outside of the Port of Providence, the waterfront along Third Rivers Avenue. It's so underutilized.
So question, what is also
looking? I'm sorry.
No, but also my question, wouldn't that be a fight with if the city council, that ordinance goes through by the full city council, and from what I understand, the state legislator actually legislation, they're the ones that make decisions on the port. If I'm right or wrong, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Wouldn't that tie us in some legal battles with the port now at that point?
Yeah. So this is great because, you know, Harrison's on. He's running for the General Assembly. So much of what takes place in the city of Providence requires enabling legislation from the state. That's just the way the system is set up. The state, you know, the city is not autonomous. The city has to ask the state permission for 1 million different things. And that's why, you know, one of the things that I'm running on is my proven ability throughout my life to bring people together to get stuff done. When I was at the State House as Deputy Secretary of State, you know, we pushed an ambitious legislative agenda that wasn't popular at the beginning, and we were able to get most of it passed. And that's how you get stuff done. You get stuff by building relationships. You get stuff by understanding how the process works and navigating the process. And sure, the city of Providence, you know, there's a limit to what the council can do on its own, to what the mayor can do on its own. But again, the mayor has to be the chief cheerleader and lobbyist for the city of Providence. It has to go up to the State House. It has to have relationships with the General Assembly. It has to get stuff done up there as well. It can't just be making announcements for the sake of making announcements that then don't go anywhere because the legislature ignores us. That's unacceptable.
Agreed. That's fun. I like that one. That's funny. Harrison, you had a question for Gonzalo, right?
Yeah, BLM RIPAC is one of our main initiatives. Obviously, repealing Leobor is a huge issue in our state. Legalizing marijuana throughout the state, not only in an equitable way, but also releasing those who are incarcerated due to marijuana charges. And then our last major campaign is really about diverting police calls when it comes to mental health and behavioral health. And the whole idea that, you know, if I'm going through a mental health breakdown or Dion's going through a mental health breakdown, that we don't need someone to respond with the gun. We need somebody to respond that is trained specifically in that area to help that person, meeting people where they're at. And my question to you, Gonzalo, is as mayor, would you make a considerable effort when it comes to working with the city council, and also your position when it comes to diverting calls and making that a priority during your administration?
Absolutely. You know, we have to recognize, as I said earlier, you know, the job of being a police officer is a very difficult job because society, we have come to expect a lot of things from a police officer. Police officer is supposed to be a mental health professional, a social worker, you know, a nonviolence expert. And the reality is that we live in different times. And I think that we have to look at partnering with agencies and with organizations that are specialized in that area. And we also have to look at, you know, when we talk about reimagining public safety, you know, so that triggers some people, but I think there's great opportunity there. If we look at the fire department, most of the calls that fire personnel respond to are rescue calls. And a lot of those are dealing with individuals who are going through substance abuse issues, mental health issues, and they show up with the first aid kit. They don't show up with the gun. They show up with the first aid kit. And so what we should be looking at is best practices across the board to say, what are the opportunities to partner with organizations and institutions that are experts in dealing with mental health and behavioral health issues or substance abuse issues? And what are opportunities for us to look at kind of the bigger picture of public safety, and not from the perspective of, all cops are bad or let's replace cops, but from the perspective of, well, how are we doing to build trust between the community and the authorities, whether it's public safety folks, whether it's police or fire personnel. That's what we ultimately have to do, is we have to figure out how to build bonds of trust so that we can get away from this kind of atmosphere where sometimes it feels like it's an occupational force. I think that's what's unacceptable.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think I think, you know what? I think we can go to commercial and come back for final thoughts, to be honest with you. Wow, this is hold on, Chris, before you even do that. Hold on. This has been great. Like, it's good answers, good timing, all this stuff tonight. Oh my goodness. I can't believe. Listen, I beat the queue. Normally I'm like 5 minutes after the queue to go to commercial. Normally
Tight shit, Dion.
we're on top of it tonight. You know what? Let's go to commercial, Chris. Let's wrap it up.
My name is Brian Sims, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I think every day about the values that my Army officer parents instilled in me: to take responsibility, to show empathy, to have courage, and to be authentic. I want to put those values to the direct service of the Commonwealth. I have a lot of hope when I look at the people across the country that decided over these last number of years that they'd had enough, that they looked at a lack of leadership and thought that they could do better, because oftentimes they're right. We are the antidote to broken politics. My time in the Pennsylvania legislature has taught me a lot about not only how Pennsylvania government works, but a lot about how it doesn't. It's taught me a lot about how to work with people who don't always agree with me. I think it's time for me to take what I've learned in the House and to be able to bring that leadership to the direct service of the governor. I want to be your next Lieutenant Governor. We need adults in the room, and I want to bring bold, visionary leadership based on lived experiences and shared values to the Commonwealth.
And we are back, everyone. And you know what time it is. It's that time for us to, say goodbye. I really enjoyed this show. I enjoy doing the show. I enjoy having Harrison, and it's always great, Gonzalo, having a conversation with you. You still owe me dinner. You still owe me dinner. I haven't forgotten.
Absolutely.
You guys eat dinner too? I just want to confirm that.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good.
Well, you know what? We did promise Harrison we'd take him out somewhere outside of Thayer Street, so we have to find somewhere outside of Thayer Street. Yeah. Show him another Providence, Gonzalo.
You can come to El Ninja. It's pretty good. It's a fusion.
El Ninja. I have not been to El Ninja. Ninja.
That's it. It's a date.
All right. El Ninja over on Broad Street. Here we go. Here we come. Dion Sage, Gonzalo Cuervo, Harrison Tuttle. Coming to a restaurant near you. No, I'm joking. So it's time for final thoughts, everyone out there. And we're gonna start. I'm gonna start with Harrison, and then I'm gonna go with Gonzalo, and then I'll wrap up. So Harrison, give us your final thoughts. 60 seconds, and go.
Okay, final thoughts. Well, first off, I want to make it known that if Jennifer's watching, that I'm going to make it my mission to be on the show more than her. But on a more serious note, the crisis that we have in this state when it comes to education, when it comes to housing, We're at a moment in which, there are people that are out on the streets right now that are going to freeze to death if we don't do something about it. And so, it's critically important that anybody who's watching advocates and reaches out to the legislators to tell them to go back into a special session for the General Assembly, because we need to spend that $1.13 billion of ARPA money on things like affordable housing, ending homelessness, and providing Rhode Islanders what they need, not to get a free handout, just to get by. And so those are my final thoughts.
Thank you very much, Harrison. Gonzalo, final thoughts?
Dion, thank you. My final thoughts are very basic. I want to echo Harrison's statement about people advocating for that money to be spent on people, to be spent on our human resources, on the most valuable thing that any city or any state can hold, can care for, can contain, its people. But I also want to say something on a more positive note, on a more cheerful note, is I'm feeling very hopeful for the future. Because, I'm 47 years old. I've been involved in community activities since I was 19. But I see, younger folks like Harrison and so many other, diverse young voices that are speaking out, that are getting involved, that remain active. And that gives me a lot of hope for the future, because as we spoke earlier, the city of Providence doesn't operate in a bubble. So much of what needs to happen in the city will rely on enabling legislation, will rely on state budgeting. And to the extent that we can have thoughtful, dynamic, diverse voices, both in the city council, in the mayor's office, and in the General Assembly, I think we'll be able to do great things in the future. And I'm very excited about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Harrison. Thank you, Gonzalo. So my final thoughts are this, echoing the words of Harrison and both Gonzalo. They're right. We're asking you to spend money on a human right, a human basic right, housing. A couple of times on here in backstage, I talked about one of my mentors who was passed on, the late Miguel Luna, who was a city councilman in the city of Providence in the 8th Ward. The 9th Ward. 9th Ward. And I'll never forget my first time meeting Miguel Luna. It was 2010, and we were sitting over at NARA on Federal Hill, and he sat down and said that there are 5 basic human rights. And he said one is housing, one is education, one is oh my goodness, now I'm drawing a blank. I just had them in my head. But the first one he said was home, was like people living. That's a basic human right. Being able to have somewhere you can feel safe and warm and come. That's a basic human right. And when a country or a state or a government has the resources, has the means to give that basic human right, we need to be able to give it. Like we say all the time. Many people, I hear people say all the time. I hear people say it all the time. Even myself, I've said it. I'll be honest. Man, we got to do something about this. I'm tired of people asking me for my money. We said that. And let's be honest, we've all said it at some point. But also at the same time, we all recognize that people are experiencing homelessness and it's getting worse, not better. For a fraction, like Harrison said, of that $700 million that Jennifer talked about, we can end homelessness tomorrow.
Yep.
So pick up the phone, call your state legislator, harass them at 11 o'clock at night tonight, and tell them to end homelessness now. That's my final thoughts. With all that said, we have a wonderful show for you on Tuesday. Can't wait to see you guys on Tuesday. And we're going to be coming back soon with our last candidate for mayor of Providence, and that is Michael Solomon in the next couple of weeks. So can't wait to sit down and have that conversation as well. So until next time, Rhode Island, peace. Good night.